Hey guys, what's up? My name is Bob and Fishy, and welcome back to PICA. This is Season 3, this is the first battle of Season 3, and I am psyched. So if you guys saw my post-draft little wrap-up for like what I have on my team, it's pretty cool. I like my team. But we're going to be looking at what my first opponent is going to be bringing here. So, you guys know I have access to Thunderous Therian, Mega Manectric, Jirachi, Suicune, Heracross, Nidoqueen, Rotom Mow, Golurk, Sigilif, Zoroark, and Blaziken. Now, Blaziken cannot have Speed Boost, so he's got to have Blaze, but that's okay, because I got him for super cheap, and he's just really good in this sort of format. So, looking over at my first week's opponent, his name is Rohit. He's from India, if I recall correctly, and he is an absolutely awesome dude. His draft is solid. If you look at this, Mega Venusaur, Bisharp, Snorlax, Vaporeon, Rotom Heat, or like the furnace one, Golbat, Dusclops, Conkeldurr, Alakazam, Cragnole, and Crustle. So that means he has 2 tier 1s, 2 tier 2s, and a bunch of tier 5s. But his tier 3s are actually super solid too. So if you look at it, he's got a really nifty Fire, Water, Grass core going on with Vaporeon, Rotom Heat, and Mega Venusaur. And not only that, but all of those 3 Pokemon are all super useful. Now you see a lot of people, they'll try to make like a Fire, Water, Grass core out of like, they'll have like maybe like a water and a grass, and then they'll just kind of throw in like a tier 5 fire guy just for the sake of having it. But honestly, that's really not the way to go, in my opinion. If you're going to do a fire, water, grass core, you want to get top tier fires, waters, and grasses. That way you're going to be able to bring them all. So this guy definitely did that. With the Mega Venusaur, obviously super, super good Mega. If you saw me in Season 2, you know that I loved Mega Venusaur. He's like my favorite one. Vaporeon, super useful with like Scald, Wish, Baton Pass, Heal Bell. I think it gets Heal Bell. What you call it? Like, you can Wish Protect. You can do a lot of stuff with Vaporeon, and honestly, that's going to be super, super useful for him. Rotom Heat bypasses the usual, like weakness to water types by being able to Volt Switch out on them. So if you can predict well, you can really, really mess with opponents' water types who might try to switch in on your Rotom Heat. So that's going to be really good for him. He's got Golbat and Dusclops, which both kind of hardwall my Heracross. He's got a Snorlax, so I'm going to have to bring one of my fighting types, probably going to be Blaziken. He's got Conkeldurr and Bisharp as his 2 tier 1s. Conk is able to throw some really, really gnarly fighting moves. And he's just really bulky, like generally, especially on the physical side. Bisharp, less bulky, but he's got a lot more resistances, and those are clutch. Like, Bisharp is actually one of the better Pokemon in terms of League format. It's got access to Sucker Punch, Knockoff, Iron Head, Sub, all those good moves. Sword Stance is there. I mean, like, the thing is really, really good. And then I think I mentioned Snorlax, but I'm going to mention it again. Snorlax is an absolute beast. You can run like a million different sets on it, and it's just really, really good. It's got a lot of special defense. And then he's got his Alakazam. That's his other tier 2. And that thing is going to be dangerous. It's going to be throwing some really, really powerful psychic attacks my way. And I'm going to have to watch out for those. So, we're going to go ahead and check out what each of us brought, because I brought some stuff. You guys might not have necessarily seen it coming. Let me go ahead and open my little folder so I can look at it too. So, I went with Thunderous Therian. I went with Rotom Mow. Obviously, I love my Rotom forms. Suicune, Blaziken, Jirachi, and Zoroark. Now, I'm going to give you my rationale for all of these. First off, Thunderous. The guy doesn't have an electric type. He doesn't have a ground type. He doesn't have anything that's immune to electric moves. So I figured having Thunderous on my team, being able to throw some nice Specs Volt Switches, that's kind of going to be my way to go. I'm going to Volt Turn on this guy. That's the plan anyway. So we've got Specs Volt Switch. We've got Thunderbolt, Focus Blast, and HP Ice, which is just, it's general complimentary, but it really doesn't work too well on this guy, just because I don't think he has anything that's actually weak to ice, does he? I don't know. Anyway, so that's going to be kind of an issue, but at the same time, yeah, like, it's going to be kind of just good generally. I think that's a good set. I never really use HPIs anyway. I don't think I use anything except like Volt Switch and Thunderbolt. Um, Rotom, he's going to be a really nifty set. He's got Leaf Storm, Volt Switch, duh. Pain Split, very handy. Just being able to kind of get some HP back. He doesn't have his own recovery. But I've also got Thunderwave. I went with Thunderwave as opposed to Will-O-Wisp because Thunderwave is absolutely one of my favorite moves. When you compare that with like a Jirachi or something, especially because Jirachi and Rotom Mow pair pretty well. You know, you need a fire resist somewhere in there, but other than that, they really pair well because Rotom's immune to ground, and you know, like Jirachi is immune to poison, and they just pair well. Like Jirachi pairs really well with a lot of different Rotom forms. And if you're able to throw some Thunder Waves around, you can get Jirachi some openings to, like, you know, sweep through teams with stuff like Iron Head and Zen Headbutt. So that was kind of a plan on my part. Also, let's keep on going with the Volturn theme. Jirachi, Iron Head, Zen Headbutt, Stealth Rocks, U-Turn. Really, really basic set. But again, I'm going to be able to build up some offensive momentum, force some switches, and just get a little bit of chip damage in. And that chip damage is going to be big as we move forward. Now, he does have Vaporeon for Wish support, and Venusaur has Synthesis, but nothing else he really has, like, you know, super good recovery. So we can knock out the Vaporeon, and that's not going to be a super, super big issue, considering I have two very powerful electric types. We're going to be good to go. Next up, we've got Zoroark, and this dude is really, really nifty. The illusion ability is going to play some super awesome mind games with my opponent. He's never going to know if what I have in is actually what I have in. If I send out Blaziken, he can't be confident going into his physical wall because I might be Zoroark, throw a Dark Pulse at him, do some big damage. I mean, like, that's going to be an issue for him. Zoroark has Dark Pulse, Flamethrower, Focus Blast, and U-Turn. Now, I wanted to have U-Turn just to keep up the Volturn shenanigans. And also, Zoroark actually pairs really, really well with Jirachi. If I bring in Zoroark disguised as Jirachi, the opponent might actually go into his Bisharp, and if I can predict that effectively, I'm going to be able to hit that thing with a Flamethrower or a Focus Blast or something and just knock it out. And Bisharp is one of his biggest threats, so if I can knock that out quickly, that's going to be amazing for me. Next up, we've got Blaziken. Now, Blaziken has High Jump Kick, Flare Blitz, Knockoff, and Baton Pass. I went with Baton Pass, even though I don't have the speed boost. I wanted to have the Baton Pass just so I could swap out and maintain offensive momentum if I was predicting a switch. Keep in mind, I was predicting him to have like either Golbat or Dusclops or something bulky that could probably take hits from Blaziken. So I wanted to be able to kind of swap around, and that was something that I thought was going to be really useful. I didn't actually end up using it, but it would have been nice. So, you know, there you go. And last but not least, my cleanup guy, Suicune. Now, Suicune is a really, really cool Pokemon just because he's got that access to like a really, really good Calm Mindset. Calm Mind, Rest, Sleep Talk, and Scald. I mean, if you can knock out your opponent's counter to it, they really aren't going to be able to do a lot about it. So, in this case, if I can effectively weaken or set up enough to the point where Venusaur and Rotom aren't going to be a threat and knock out Vaporeon, I'm going to be good to go with Suicune. I'm just going to be able to, you know, set up and start scalding everything. Again, pairs really nicely with Rotom Mow's Thunder Wave just because I'm going to be able to outspeed stuff, and that's going to give me the opportunity to set up before they attack me. So that's going to be really nasty. So yeah, if we're looking at the teams, my team is really, really good in my opinion. I think I'm going to be able to set up really effectively and just kind of get enough chip damage to get an early lead and then potentially sweep late game. But of course, let's go ahead and check out his team. So he's got Rotom Heat, Cryogonal, Alakazam, Mega Venusaur, I'm assuming Mega Venusaur. I see Venusaur, but yeah, it's pretty safe to assume it's Mega. Vaporeon and Bisharp. Now, quick thing to note, he did not bring his Snorlax. I am so happy about that. You have no idea. He also actually didn't bring anything that like really, really hard walls my Heracross, so I could have brought that. Now that I'm thinking about it, like, I mean, yeah, he has Mega Venusaur to soak up like a close combat, but if he loses that, like, Alakazam probably gets 2-hit by it, and like, so he has nothing to like really switch in and eat those hits up. I could have probably done that, but again, didn't want to risk it. So, anyways, let's go ahead and assume what we're going to see with his sets. Rotom, I'm assuming like defensive, but with overheat, just to be able to. He's got a good matchup against my Rotom, and he actually has a pretty good matchup against my team, just because Suicune does not resist the electric. So keep that in mind. Moving on, Cryogonal, probably going to have the Rapid Spin, just a generally quick Ice type that's good on the specially defensive side, but no physical defense to speak of. Mega Venusaur, probably just the standard tanky set. It could be offensive or defensive, but they both function pretty much the same. Like, it's the same moveset, more or less. And, yeah, it can hurt, but, you know, once we set up on it, like, or, you know, just get some chip damage on it, I think that's going to be the way to go. Just kind of wear it down. Don't give it an opportunity to Mega Evolve until, like, well, ideally don't give it an opportunity to Mega Evolve at all. And just kind of wear him down until he doesn't really have a lot left going on. Alakazam's going to be a problem because that Focus Sash set is really annoying. It can always take a hit. And he outspeeds everything on my team, I think. That said, he's not going to be able to one-shot Jirachi. I can kind of set up with Suicune, and if I do, he won't be able to kill it. Zoroark could potentially pretend to be something else and not take any damage from Psychic. That'd be nice. And I mean, like, if we can paralyze it, it's dead meat. Bisharp, obviously not going to want to deal with Blaziken. Blaziken just kills it. Zoroark kills it. It doesn't really fare that well against Thundurus, honestly. Specs Thunderbolt will do a lot, and even if it hits me with a nice Sucker Punch, it really won't kill, I don't think. Luckily, I am a Legendary, so, like, you know, if I do that... The only thing I really don't want him to switch in on is my Rotom or my Jirachi. Jirachi can get Pursuit Trapped by it, and Rotom really can't do anything to him. So those are the things that I don't want to have in when it comes in. But other than that, I'm pretty good. And then Vaporeon obviously is going to completely wall my Suicune, so I'm going to have to deal with that. It does a number on a couple of my guys, but I do have two very, very competent electric types that can deal with it, or at least threaten it out. So that's going to be good. So we are going to go ahead and hop right into the battle, and I'll see you there. So my opponent leads off with his Rotom Heat form. I'm going to lead off with my Thundurus. Now keep in mind, I do have Zoroark, so I'll let you know if Zoroark's on the field. But anyways, we're going to lead off with a nice Volt Switch, get a little bit of damage on that Rotom. Now I'm going to go ahead and go into my Blaziken, partially because I really don't have anything that wants to take that Overheat, except for Blaziken. He goes for the Will-O-Wisp, but I figured he wouldn't be Volt Switching, just, you know, because I'm immune to that. So I figured there would be some sort of fire thing coming. Blaziken can take that better than anything else. I go for the High Jump Kick, and he survives with 1%, which is complete BS, but things happen. So my opponent goes for the nice Volt Switch there, and that's going to let him switch on out into his, Vaporeon. Now, Vaporeon's obviously going to be a really, really bulky thing, so I'm just going to go ahead and hop on out of there. Now, Vaporeon's going to go ahead and throw up a Wish here. That's really, it's a good play, in my opinion, but unfortunately for it, Wish will end at the end of the turn, so he's not going to be able to go into his Rotom here. Now, he is going to be able to get in something for free, so he goes ahead and brings in his Venusaur. Now, Venusaur is not going to take much damage from the Volt Switch and going to get that Wish up. And we're not going to see lefties, of course, because it is a Mega. So, you know, all information, just in case that he was, like, trying to be sneaky and bring, like, a Sunny Day set or something. Not happening, but, you know, it was an option. Anyway, so he's got his Venusaur in at full health, but he doesn't want to stand against Jirachi. But the thing is, this isn't actually Jirachi. This is Zoroark. I'm going to go ahead and go for a nice U-turn on out. Now, I was thinking of potentially trying for some Dark Pulse action or something like that, but Vaporeon was in, so I'm just going to go ahead and switch out. And we got Thundurus in here now, and Thundurus is obviously going to be able to threaten the heck out of this thing. So, obviously, Volt Switch is coming, so he's going to go into his Venusaur. Now, Venusaur is not going to take a ton of damage from the Specs Volt Switch, but he will take a bit, solid 26%, and that's just some chip damage on this thing. You know, it's one of those things that if you're able to chip away at a Venusaur enough, that's kind of how you kill him. So in comes Jirachi. This is actually Jirachi this time. I'm going to go ahead and set up some Stealth Rocks. That's going to kill Rotom on the switch. Or, worst case scenario, Cryogonal can come in and take 25% to Rocks. I'm okay with that. So he goes into his Vaporeon. Fair enough. I'm going to go ahead and U-turn on out right now because I don't really have any reason to stay in. Now, I could have played some flinching games with Zen Headbutt, but I didn't want to risk I didn't want to risk Jirachi getting burned. So I'm just going to go ahead and U-turn on out, go into Rotom. Rotom can take this thing on pretty well. He makes a good prediction here and goes for the Baton Pass to try and get some momentum his way. The only problem for him is that even though he's doing that, he's revealing that he has the Baton Pass, which actually makes me think he might not have the Protect. So he goes for the Rapid Spin here. That was super obvious. That's why I didn't just hard switch. I knew he wasn't going to go for Ice Beam. I knew it was going to be the Rapid Spin. He needs to get those rocks off the field if he's going to have any chance of getting his Rotom back to full health. Keep in mind, Rotom is one of his most threatening Pokemon to my team. So he's obviously going to want to get that back to full health if he can. Now Zoroark's going to come, Jirachi's going to come in. This is actually Jirachi, and I'm just going to go for a nice U-turn. That's, pretty standard, just getting some chip damage on stuff. Vaporeon switches in, and it's going to be threatened out immediately by Thundurus. And this is Thundurus. It's not Zoroark or anything. So I'm just going to go for a nice... Oh, by the way, the reason I keep switching in between Jirachi and Thundurus, the reason for that is because that's changing up the last guy on my slot. So that's going to mean that Zoroark right now is going to be disguised as Thundurus if it comes in. So keep that in mind. So anyways, in comes Jirachi, and I'm just going to, the idea is threaten him out, but he actually stays in, which is a good move. I set up some rocks as he goes for the Sleep Powder. Which is a shame because I really wanted this Jirachi awake, but luckily there are some things that I can stay on and not really worry about. So here I'm going to go ahead and switch out. I'm going to go into my Blaziken. The idea here is just to attempt to threaten this thing out. He makes a double switch and goes into his Vaporeon. Now that's actually a really, really nice double switch. I don't know if what he was planning there. I guess he was just looking to get Vaporeon in so he could get a Wish Up. Potentially pass it to like a Cryogonal or something. But I'm just going to go for the high jump kick. I figured if he has Protect, he'll use it. But he actually, either he didn't have it or didn't, or thought he would survive or something. I don't know. But anyways, he's not going to survive the high jump kick at 55%. So Alakazam's going to come in, threaten me out, and he's going to make a nice double switch here, go into his Cryogonal. As I go into my Jirachi, this is actually Jirachi. I'm just going to try to wake it up. Now, I'm not super duper threatened by anything Cryogonal is going to do, so I'm okay with just letting it come in here and do its thing. Now, obviously, he's going to just want to get those rapid spins up. He can't do anything with his Rotom. Like, he can't wish it back to full health, or, even to have health anyway. But he is still going to have some utility there, threatening me, at least, with Overheat. I don't know if he speed ties with my Rotom or what. I don't have any speed on mine. So, whatever. Anyway, he goes Knockoff, which does 21%. Not a lot to my Jirachi. And now he goes for the Rapid Spin. That's going to get rid of the rocks. Keep in mind, Thundurus is at the moment the last guy on my team, so if Zoroark comes in, it will look like a Thundurus. So here, I wake up just in time, go for some nice U-turn action, and I had been asleep for a while, so, that's about when I should be waking up. So here comes Zoroark. Now, he doesn't necessarily know I'm a Zoroark, but he's definitely going to be threatened by it. So he's going to go ahead and switch out. Cryogonal is definitely going to be able to take whatever hits I throw at it from a Thundurus. Well, he might have been able to. Actually, probably would have died to a Thunderbolt. But anyways, I am going to reveal that I am a Zoroark and go for a nice Flamethrower, go for a second one, and take out his Spinner. So now, if I get rocks back up, his Rotom's dead on switch. It doesn't really help anything else, although Venusaur isn't going to enjoy them. Now here, I still have my Zoroark in here. I figured I could go for the Dark Pulse. If it wanted to get aggressive and try to kill me, which was kind of the plan, is just to hope he gets aggressive and tries to make up that deficit. Venusaur will, pretty much be dead meat. But he's smart. He goes for the Synthesis. I didn't get the flinch. That's okay. But now you turn out. I'm going to go into Rotom just to try and dodge a Sleep Powder or something. I figure, Rotom's pretty much done everything I needed it to. So now I can just bring it in and potentially go for like some Volt Switch or whatever. I go for the Thunder Wave. I figured, whatever it hits, paralysis is always nice. Venusaur is now paralyzed, but it's at full health, so time for me to get out. I do still have some really nasty attackers. I probably should have done the Volt Switch last turn while he Synthesized up and gone into Blaziken then. Blaziken is obviously going to be super threatening, but he makes he just goes for an attack there, and honestly, I should have predicted that. But whatever, I lose Blaziken. Probably could have kept him alive there if I'd played a bit smarter. Anyway, Jirachi's turn. He comes in. Now, the switch into either Rotom or Bisharp is pretty obvious, so I'm just going to go for the U-turn. And we actually end up KO in the Rotom. So we're up 5 against 3. However, he still has his nastiest attackers alive. So he's got that, he's still got his Alakazam at full health. By the way, I think this is actually Thunderous here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. So, yeah, I Volt Switch out. Again, just getting some chip on Venusaur. I figured if it gets paralyzed at any point, that's going to be super beneficial. So here I go for some chip damage, and then I go into Jirachi. He goes for the Sleep Powder, which is super unfortunate, because now Jirachi's asleep again, and I'm not going to be able to Paraflinch anything. So time for me to switch out. I'm just going to go into Rotom here, and I figured if he kills it, whatever. Otherwise, I figured he might switch here. I figured, Bisharp was kind of the guy to go to. So I'm just going to go for the Volt Switch, hoping that it'll break his sub if he goes for it. But he doesn't. He just goes back into Venusaur. Venusaur is pretty much his all-purpose switch to Rotom. But, whatever. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and Volt Switch on out into Zoroark here. Of course, he thinks it's a Thunderous. And I'm going to go for a Dark Pulse. And the reason for that is he's paralyzed, and Dark Pulse has a nice flinch chance. So I figured there was a good chance he wouldn't be able to do anything, and I could just knock out the Venusaur. Unfortunately, does not happen, as Dark Pulse doesn't do enough damage. It actually does, it doesn't do hardly any damage. And his Venusaur is going to be able to knock out my Zoroark. He's at 40%, which is really nasty, honestly. So, this is actually kind of a problem. I'm running out of guys that can actually do damage to this Venusaur. So, in comes Thunderous, and I'm just going to go for the Thunderbolt. It's Specs, it's my most powerful attack. I wish I had put, HP Flying on this thing, but I didn't even think about it, honestly, because it's so crappy against everything. And again, Specs, so I didn't want to, lock myself into something like that. But anyway, at this point, he has to switch out because Venusaur will die. So he actually ends up sacking off his Bisharp, which is really interesting. Honestly, Bisharp was one of the things I was most scared of, and it ended up doing absolutely nothing except for kind of switching into some attacks and dying. That's you know what? It's nice for me. Anyway, Alakazam comes in. I don't want to deal with that, so I'm just going to go ahead and go into Jirachi. Figured I could just, soak up a hit or something. He goes for the Psyshock. I quad resist it. Unfortunately, I no longer have my leftovers, which would have given me a bunch of health back. But he shows me the Shadow Ball, and it does 61%. That's a lot. I don't wake up. Fair enough. I mean, you know what? Things happen sometimes. So, Jirachi is officially unconscious, or he's been knocked out, which is super sad, but he didn't really do a lot. So, now it's 3-on-2. He managed to pull himself back from the brink there. So I'm going to go into my Suicune here. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just set up a couple of Calm Minds and, do my thing. Unfortunately, he's got the Energy Ball. And you'll see, he's also got something even more nasty here. He's got the Encore, and he's going to Encore me into some nice Calm Mind action, which is super unfortunate. The plan here was just to set up, rest, and kind of kill him. But that's not going to happen. Luckily, I am back up to 59% now, thanks to lefties. So I'm going to be able to take another Energy Ball if I have to. So keep that in mind. So here comes Rotom. He's going to look to maybe sponge up a couple of hits for me. And he does just that. He eats that Psyshock really nicely. Honestly, I love Rotom. He's just super bulky. And I'm going to go ahead and throw a Thunder Wave his way. He goes for Shadow Ball, potentially just looking for some more damage on the special side. Psyshock would have done about the same. Actually, I think it would have done slightly more. But he does score a crit, so that's unfortunate. But we do manage to get him paralyzed, and that is big. I'm going to be able to outspeed him, and this is actually, the reason this is as big as it is, the paralysis is going to mean that he no longer outspeeds my Suicune, which means he's not going to be able to Encore me into Calm Mind, and I can scald him before he gets to the chance. So that means if I can set up a couple of Calm Minds with Suicune, I just win. Now here, I should have Volt Switched. I know that. Honestly, if I could have Volt Switched there, I was just like, okay, well, we'll just, I figured he would stay in with his Alakazam, honestly. I should have Volt Switched and gone into my Thunderous, but there was a risk that he would just attack. Anyways, now he's going to be able to get a Synthesis up, so I have to go into Suicune. I figured that's what he was going to be doing. So now Suicune's going to be able to set up a couple of calm minds on this Venusaur. Even though he does have the Giga Drain, it's not going to do that much, especially because I get the calm mind up first because of the paralysis. And that means I am just going to be able to set up. He does get fully paralyzed, and it's like, oh man, it finally happens when it doesn't matter. Because Suicune is just going to be able to set up on this thing. So now he goes for the Sleep Powder. Unfortunately for him, I've got the Sleep Talk, and I actually predict this really well, like when I wake up and stuff. So, you know, that's really cool. So I'm going to be sleeping. I go for the Sleep Talk. I score, I think, Rest, and I think he just goes for a nice Giga Drain, but it doesn't do much. Yeah, here it is. 29%. That's not bad, but I'm going to be able to eat those up all day. I don't really care if he gets back up to full health. He doesn't have a lot of syntheses left. And, you know, eventually he will just die if I get set up enough. So here we score another Calm Mind, which is good. I'd rather a Calm Mind than a Scald. And, you know, 24%. It's, at this point, like, even if he keeps chipping away at me, it's all good. So I've been asleep for a couple of turns now. I'm going to assume that I'm going to sleep again, because it's always my luck to, like, sleep until just about the last turn. So he goes for some nice Giga Drain action here. Knocks me down to 15%, but luckily with lefties I get back to 21. And I'm going to be able to just rest up this turn. Yeah, because I wake up here. That's super clutch, honestly. But we do wake up, we get the rest up, and now we're at full health, and this is pretty much wraps. I know exactly how long I'll be asleep now, and yeah, Crocoon's actually going to end up sweeping this for me. Keep in mind, even if he managed to like knock it out with a lucky crit or something, after I knock out this Venusaur, I'm good. The Venusaur's the problem. But luckily, Crocoon's going to be able to take that down. Here, he's going to get paralyzed a lot. So, you know, that's unfortunate for him, but, you know, figured his luck would run out eventually. He didn't flinch. He scored a crit earlier. Not that it mattered, but he did. You know, stuff happens. Anyways, yeah, we're just going to sit here with my Suicune, go for some nice Sclads, and just win. Takes a while, sorry. Let me actually pop this up to fast, just so we can talk about some stuff. Anyways, yeah, so that's going to be the game. That's my first game of the PICA Season 3. I win this one 3-0. Now, if you want to check out what my divisional rivals and everybody else is doing, feel free to check out the spreadsheet. It is in the description. It should be right at the top. And, of course, all of the channels of everybody I'm up against is going to be there as well. So, you know, feel free to check those out. Super interesting stuff. They're all really neat guys. But at least check out the spreadsheet just because that's all your info. All the stuff you need to know about PICA is right there, right at your fingertips. Matt does a really, really good job of maintaining it. And looking forward, next time, who do we have? We have the Detroit Magnetons. Now, these guys are going to be a really, really difficult team. They won their game against Belgian Extra Large, or BXL, in Week 1. So I think they were like the first team that had a battle. They are a rain team. Luckily, I do have a bunch of electric types and stuff. So, in theory, it should be a better matchup for me than the previous one. Although, you know, rain is always super duper threatening. But yeah, we should have some fun with it. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this video. And, as always, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you later. Bye, guys!